Hi, I'm Slim the Drifter, and this is Carrie Lynn Blaine.
Carrie Lynn.
We're the genre band. Well, you can call it genre band because, you know, we kind of take a basic idea from a lot of different kinds of music which we love.
I like to kiss you and throw you, but I don't think I'll be asking to dance. But I chuckle every word that you said. You're gonna wait more as if you're dead. You're bright eyed talking big girl once again.
Ah, alcohol. It's known to make people all around the world feel a little more outgoing at dinners and dance parties. But the inside of your body sees alcohol as a poison, and it tries to get rid of it ASAP. Whatever your body can't process right away can end up in your brain, which affects how your cells interact with each other and causes all of those things that we associate with drunkenness. So it's totally fine to have a beer or two with your drinking-aged friends, but consistently drinking way too much alcohol can get dangerous in the long run. When you take a sip of an alcoholic beverage, the toxic stuff it contains, ethanol, also known as ethyl alcohol, is absorbed into your bloodstream through your stomach lining or small intestine. Your liver is responsible for filtering out this ethanol and breaking it down, using enzymes and other peptides so your body can safely get rid of it. First, it's converted into acetaldehyde, which is toxic too, and probably a big reason for those nasty hangovers. Then another enzyme turns acetaldehyde into acetate, which is harmless and eventually excreted in urine. And your liver does its best to get rid of all the ethanol you're putting in your body, but if you keep refilling that wine glass, it has trouble keeping up. So any excess ethanol circulates in your bloodstream and eventually reaches your brain. Now, usually foreign substances like bacteria and toxins are kept out of your brain thanks to the blood-brain barrier, basically a filter made of specialized cells and proteins. But it's actually pretty easy for ethanol to get in because it's attracted to fats, so it can pass through those fatty cell membranes. And once alcohol reaches the brain, it starts to mess with the signaling between neurons, aka brain cells. The brain uses these chemicals called neurotransmitters to send messages between cells. The two most important ones are gamma-aminobutyric acid, or GABA, and glutamate. GABA binds to specialized receptor proteins and causes neurons to send fewer signals, so scientists say it's an inhibitory neurotransmitter. Glutamate, on the other hand, binds to receptors and causes neurons to send more signals, so it's an excitatory neurotransmitter. Ethanol interferes with this signaling by binding to both of these receptors and changing the messages the neurons receive. Specifically, ethanol enhances GABA signaling and reduces glutamate signaling, which means there's more inhibitory signaling and slower brain activity overall. That's why alcohol is considered a depressant. And its effects on different brain regions can cause different symptoms of drunkenness. For example, alcohol reduces activity in the cerebellum, which is responsible for motor coordination, causing all of that stumbling. It also suppresses the areas of the brain responsible for self-control and social inhibition, which makes us more outgoing, emotional, and prone to risky decisions. These effects go away as your body continues to process the ethanol, and as far as we know, there aren't any serious risks to moderate alcohol consumption, but ethanol is a toxin. So if you keep downing drink after drink in a short period of time, you can get alcohol poisoning, basically a shutdown of the medulla, which is the brain region that manages vital life support functions like breathing and heart rate. And there are long-term dangers linked with excessive amounts of alcohol consumption. You can get liver cirrhosis, or seriously scar your liver tissue because it gets damaged and doesn't work as well trying to process so much toxin for so long. Scientists also think a lot of ethanol in your bloodstream can put stress on other tissues in your body too, leading to inflammation, interfering with normal hormone levels, and making it harder for your cells to repair their DNA, all of which can increase the risk of developing certain cancers. And even though alcohol doesn't kill brain cells, too much alcohol can also have long-term effects on the brain. There's some evidence that consistently drinking alcohol as a young teenager can impact the growth and maintenance of connections between neurons, sometimes leading to learning and memory problems. Alcoholism is a physical dependence on alcohol, characterized by cravings for booze and the inability to stop drinking once you've started. Scientists also think too much ethanol in the bloodstream over a long period of time could prevent our intestines from properly absorbing thiamine, or vitamin B1, and make it harder for our livers to store and use it too. A thiamine deficiency can lead to Wernicke-Korsakoff syndrome, which is associated with the damage or shrinkage of several brain regions and causes a lot of problems in movement, memory, and vision. So, a lot of really serious, unpleasant stuff. Alcohol has a lot of effects on the human body, and because it's a toxin, drinking too much can lead to some serious health concerns. Thanks for watching this episode of SciShow, brought to you by our patrons on Patreon. If you want to help support the show, just go to patreon.com/scishow, and don't forget to go to youtube.com/scishow and subscribe.
Alrighty, so what we have here is a cross-section of a normal liver. There it is on camera. You see how its architecture is relatively intact, the color is relatively homogeneous. This is, would you like to hold a normal liver? There you go.
That's a real liver.
That's a real liver. That is somebody's liver, so let's be respectful of that. So this is what a healthy liver should look like. Tara, do you want to hold it?
Sure, it's juicy. I get to say I've held a human liver.
Yes, you have.
Wow.
Okay, so that's, again, particularly notice that the architecture is uniform and the color, and there's a homogeneous quality to it, okay? This now is going to be a cirrhotic liver.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And these are all regenerative nodules. The liver is full of scar, and it's attempting to regenerate itself, and as it regenerates, it comes up against scar and forms more scar.
How long does this take?
To develop? Mm-hmm. Well, women are at about a 5-time greater risk of developing this. Well, no, it's not the size. It's that you actually lack an enzyme in your stomach to break the alcohol down into a safer compound. And essentially, every woman I've treated that drink like either of you do has some degree of alcoholic liver disease. It's not possible that you don't have alcoholic liver disease. I can't say that you have cirrhosis. Not everybody gets cirrhosis, but I worry that you are at risk for cirrhosis. This is a mess, right? This is probably somebody who died of cirrhosis. And what happens is that not only are you unable to take toxins out of your system, and it can affect your brain, and you can become what's called encephalopathic. You can't build proteins normally. You can't fight. Your immune system doesn't work normally. Blood backs up behind the liver, and you actually develop varicose veins in your esophagus. They rupture, and you can bleed to death in minutes.
Over the last 2 decades, alcohol-related deaths have spiked by nearly triple for young people between the age of 25 and 34, killing people in the prime of their life. But why? And how does this affect you? Most people don't realize how alcohol affects their liver. The liver is one of the most important organs in the body. It performs over 500 functions, including building muscle, killing germs, and detoxifying substances that are harmful to the body. It acts like a filter, processing everything we breathe, absorb through our skin, eat and drink, including up to 1 alcoholic drink per hour. Let's take a closer look to better understand what happens once you go beyond that 1 drink per hour. Your liver starts to struggle. It becomes overburdened and can't process the alcohol. The stress on your liver can result in scarring and fatty buildup, causing damage. And it's this continual damage that may go unnoticed for years because you won't feel anything, and there are no visual symptoms until your liver may be beyond repair, resulting in alcoholic liver disease. Myth: everybody reacts the same way to alcohol. Fact: everyone is different. There are dozens of factors that affect reactions to alcohol. Your gender, body weight, body chemistry, time of day, how you feel mentally, fatigue, and the list goes on. People who consume 4 to 5 drinks in one sitting are considered binge drinkers. This concentrated amount of alcohol strains the liver and can result in more damage. However, there are solutions to lower your risk, like avoiding binge drinking and knowing how much you're actually consuming. Understanding the portion size of a drink, binge drinking, and how to cut back or cut out can be the difference between being healthy and active later in life or potentially losing your life. Myth: your family are big drinkers and no one has ever gotten liver disease, so you're in the clear. Fact: liver disease can affect anyone. You are more at risk for developing liver disease if you binge drink and consume excessive amounts of alcohol.
I was a regular alcohol user. I was a social drinker. And as I found out, my tolerance for liver was less than the average person.
I was what I would call a social drinker. You go out to dinner and you have a drink. You go home and have a glass of wine or a cocktail that night to wind down. And it begins to be a pattern. It's obviously damaging over time.
I began drinking in my early 30s, but I drank heavily. I was in a bad marriage, went through a bad divorce. There were no excuses.
Yes, I binge drank.
I did what any other university student would do, you know, went to games, drank like any other person that I'd never known.
I just became suddenly ill one evening and turned jaundice, and obviously knew something was wrong.
I started to put on weight, especially around my stomach, but I didn't feel like I was gaining weight. And my eyes and my skin started to turn yellow. And at that point, that was the indicator that got me to the hospital emergency room. And when I got into the emergency room, that's where I got diagnosed with a failing liver.
I mean, I was familiar with hepatitis being related to the liver, but I'd never heard of alcohol-related or alcoholic hepatitis. And I was very frightened because I wasn't given very much time to live.
I was too far along in the disease, and the only option was transplant.
I was shocked with what I'd done to my body by drinking alcohol.
Myth: drugs are a bigger problem than alcohol. Fact: alcohol is a drug, and one of the deadliest. Cutting back on drinking alcohol can save you money, improve your life, and help you stay in control. To find out if you have symptoms or how to reduce your risk of liver disease, speak with your doctor and visit AmericanLiverFoundation.org.
So tonight, no Britney Spears jokes, and here's why. Here's exactly why. Britney Spears. No, it's true. Wait. I'm not doing it. Listen, when the kind of weekend she had, she was checking in out of rehab, she was shaving her head, getting tattoos. That's what she was doing this weekend. This Sunday, I was 15 years sober. So I looked at her weekend, and I looked at my own weekend, and I thought, you know, I'd rather have my weekend. But what she's going through reminds me of what I was doing. It's an anniversary, you start to think about it. It reminds me of where I was 15 years ago when I was living like that. Now, I'm not saying Britney Spears is an alcoholic. I don't know if she's an alcoholic or not. But she clearly needs help. And now, what I do here is I speak for myself. There's speculation. There's always speculation if you're on television about somebody's behind it, or the corporation, the production people. There's not. This is me. All right? It's me and you, right? I'm trying to be honest with you. I'm not an expert on alcoholism or anything else, but I am an expert on my own story. I was there when it happened. Well, I was present. The tape recorder wasn't running until February the 18th, 1992. And it made me think about the last Christmas that I had when I was a drinking man. Hopefully the last one as a drinking man. I was in a terrible mess. I wasn't shaving my head and getting tattoos. I saved that for later. I got that for my midlife crisis. But when I got sober, I was a bit older than Brittany. I was 29. And Christmas morning, before I got sober, I had been on an all-night bender. And I woke up in a room above a bar. I'd been in that pub the night before. It was Christmas Eve. I was going to have a drink and then go home. I was in London. I was going to go to Scotland, but, you know, the one thing led to another. I stayed in the room above a pub, you know, and I woke up on Christmas morning, and I was soaked in my own urine. At least I think it was mine. I can't be certain. I couldn't say with total honesty that it was my urine. I didn't have it tested, is what I'm saying. I hope to this day it was mine. Anyway, I woke up that morning. Now, this is the mind of an alcoholic. I woke up that morning, Christmas morning, and I thought, you know, I can't do this anymore. I'm going to kill myself today. I'm going to do it today. And what I did was, I thought, I made a plan as I'm getting myself together. I thought, I'll go down to Tower Bridge in London, which is the one that goes, you know, that one, and I'll swan dive to my death. I don't know how to swan dive, but I was going to do it. And I thought, by doing this, I'll show them. I didn't even know who they were, but I was going to show them. I was desperate. I was desperately confused and desperately twisted and turned upside down by whatever the hell was going on in my head. You know, and on the way out of the bar, you know, Tommy, the barman that I'd been drinking with, you know, he was kind of playing around at the bar. He was getting drinks together at the bar in the morning. Now, he had slept behind the bar all night. I'm not saying he's an alcoholic, but he slept behind the bar all night. He was an Irish fella, Tommy, and he said to me, "Where are you going?" I didn't want to cause a fuss and say, well, I'm going to go to Tower Bridge one day and kill myself. So I said, I'm going home. And he said, to Scotland? I said, yeah. He said, well, there's no transport. It's Christmas. You can't get a bus. The planes aren't running. You can't go anywhere. I said, just let me go, Tommy, will you? And he said, well, before you go, have a glass of sherry for Christmas morning. And I said, oh, all right, all right. So he poured me the type of glass of sherry that only an alcoholic would pour you, a venti sherry, they would call it in Starbucks. And I had my glass of sherry, and, one thing led to another, and I forgot to kill myself that day. Here's the important point. The alcohol saved my life. I was self-medicating. I'm an alcoholic. I needed alcohol. I needed something, And from that point on, until February the 18th the following year, it's all a bit foggy. I would wake up and play. I was on a wild bender. I was doing stand-up gigs, apparently. I wish we had tapes of that. I'm sure they were hilarious. Anyway, on the day I finally decided to stop, I called a friend of mine who had disappeared out of the pub world and gotten sober. There was scuttlebutt about him in the bars. And I called him up and I said, I need help. And he said, yeah, I've been expecting this call. And he got me into a rehab. And it wasn't like the way the rehab is, or portrayed in the news outlets at the moment, where all the kind of, Lindsay Lohans and fabulous people all getting... My roommate in rehab was a 65-year-old vicar, a priest from the Church of England, who was getting... He said, yes, well, the thing is, Craig, the parishioners were complaining that all the communion wine was going missing. It's true. He said, and also, an old lady said that there was a hobo sleeping in the church graveyard. I had to pretend and go and look for him, but it was me. And so what happened is, I stuck with it. I was in. Now, there is a myth that goes around popular culture, I think, right now as well, which is that alcoholism can be cured by a 28 stint in rehab. I'm sorry to annoy the censors, but that is horse. That is horse. It is not my experience. For me, there's two types of rehab clinics. So there's the good ones that say to you, you've done your 28 days, this is the beginning. You now have a lifetime of vigilance. This is a chronic condition that you're going to have to manage, deal with the rest of your life. And the bad ones, the bad rehab centers will say, you're good, off you go. The Reverend Ted Haggard, for example, when he gets out of the rehab and is cured of his gayness, this is clearly an unscrupulous bunch of people running that rehab. The point I'm trying to make to you is this. Now, I have been sober 15 years. There is absolutely no way I have a drinking problem. I don't have a drinking problem. I can get one fast, but I don't have a drinking problem. I have a thinking problem. I'm 15 years sober. Last week, right, I find out that Guinness has 125 calories a pint, and without a word of a lie, I'm thinking, maybe I should go on a diet. That's clearly insane. What Guinness did to me, and I'm thinking, well, it's only 125 calories. What can possibly go wrong? I want to make something clear to you. I'm not advocating temperance. I'm not advocating that. I'm saying this is for me. If I could drink, I would drink, but I can't. You can't say, to kids, drink responsibly. You can say to me, drink responsibly, and I'll say, I'll try. But I can't. Certain types of people can't drink. I'm one of them. I threw in the towel with alcoholism 15 years ago, and I've been trying for the last 15 years to get little bits of it back. And it looks to me a little bit that Britney Spears has a similar problem going on with alcohol. This woman has 2 kids. She's 25 years old. She's a baby herself. She's a baby. And the thing is, you can embarrass somebody to death. It's embarrassing to admit you're an alcoholic. It's embarrassing to wake up in your pee or someone else's pee. It doesn't really matter. It's embarrassing. Now, I'm not absolving this woman of her behaviour. I'm not. You have to be responsible for your actions, sick or well. You have to be responsible for your actions. You just have to be. All of us are accountable. You have to be. If you have, God forbid you have a kidney problem, you don't go into dialysis. It's your responsibility to somehow get yourself to dialysis. It's your responsibility to deal with the condition that you have in whatever way you can. Now, all of us in America and in Scotland and anywhere I've ever been in my life, everybody knows an alcoholic. They're either, they've worked for one, or they have one work for them, they have a parent or a sibling or a child. Everybody, there's not one of us. It does, a friend, God forbid some of you poor people are married to them. You know what it's like. Now, I have found this. You can't beat it with money. If you could beat this rap with money, rich people wouldn't die. You can't. There's, for me, only for me, and I only speak for myself, so I've got to stress this to you, I have found that the only way I could deal with it is find other people who had similar experiences and talk to them. It doesn't cost anything. It doesn't cost a thing. And they're very, very easy to find. They're very near the front of the telephone book. Good luck.